All right, everybody, we're about to do spark plugs on a Jeep Grand Cherokee with the V6. And we also have a coil pack for cylinder number 6, but I'm not seeing a check engine light currently. That's this indicator just for low washer fluid. But with no check engine light, I'll still hook up my scanner to the OBD2 port down there and see if it's a stored code. But I have it just in case, but we're gonna get into the spark plugs here. Okay, so with just the key on, you'll see the check engine light with just the key on. With the engine running, that will shut off. And with my scanner hooked up, let me focus in on that. I do have the cylinder 6 misfire detected. It's a stored code. It's not a current code, and not a live code either. Obviously, the engine's off. So what I'm thinking is I will take out all the spark plugs, obviously, because I'm gonna replace all of them because it's even due at this mileage, 150,000. I don't know the last time they've been changed. And I'll start with replacing the spark plug. I'm going to take a look at it. Cylinder 6 is on the driver's side all the way back close to me, towards the back of the engine bay. So my guess is that that spark plug, the diode is, is going to be worn down quite a bit, the tip. And if that's the case, and when I check with my gap tool, the gap is way off, then I know that'll probably be the likelihood of the misfire. I have the coil pack just in case. I can go ahead and replace it, but I'll just kind of feel it out as I go along. And of course, I'll check all the gaps in the spark plugs, because new out of the box, you see on this channel that they've been pre-gapped, let's say properly, but I guess in shipping, they got bumped around, or maybe they didn't get pre-gapped properly. I've just run it too many times, so I'll check all the gaps on the new plugs before I put them in. So let's get underway. I got the hood popped, everything's cooling down, and I'll start pulling some covers and some intake tubing, intake manifold. Okay, so out of the snow, still actually kind of stopped right after I pulled the Jeep in the garage, but nice and dry in here. So the first thing we'll do is, it looks like for the cover, we got this middle piece here that'll pop off. I can set that to the side. And then for the main cover, it'll actually clear the engine oil cap, which is nice, which is unlike my Camaro oil cover. So it looks like I got a 10mm, or you can even get a Torx right in the middle there, so that's pretty cool. So is it just the one? That's all I'm seeing. So I'm going to take that off, and it probably has those push pins that it clicks down onto. So if I had to find the 10mm before I started, of course. I had to track that down. Fits right on. We'll go ahead and loosen this guy. I can show you what's going on underneath. And I could lay it on the dash, on the windshield wiper cowl. It's kind of wet and leaves, so what I'm going to do, since I'm taking video, I know what each bolt I take out as I go is. So I'm just going to put it on the toolbox here. That way I know I'm not going to lose anything. And then let's see about this cover. You can kind of grab it on the side. Oh yeah, I felt it pop up on that side. I'll grab the right side here. And just like that, it clears the oil cap. And in the back, it may have some grommets. Oh yeah, it's got to clear those grommets as well. So grab the back, and it looks like it'll clear the dipstick as well. Kind of, pop it up from the back corner. And then on the driver's side, I'll do the exact same thing. Okay, and this is one cover. You can actually grab it. That's a good grab right in the middle there. Oil cap hole and cap holes. We'll set it down right here. We don't need our pad to lay down because we shouldn't be working underneath the vehicle. Okay, so here's what we're working with. V6 3.6 Pentastar, I believe. Actually a lot of room in this engine bay here. A lot of front space. There's the crank pulley right there, and it's like, wow. It's almost a foot of space for the radiator fan, so that's nice. But yeah, up here, a bunch of vacuum lines and whatnot, and the owner did say that the plastic tab had broken off. These white plastic tabs here can get pretty brittle. So the one that is broken off, I'll find that. He said I could just zip tie it and it's not leaking by or anything, and you can just keep it rolling for now. But of course, everything plastic gets brittle over so many heat cycles, so we'll be just very careful with everything. But you can see a lot of our intake manifold bolts that will be taken off there, and you should be able to reuse the gasket, so we're going to attempt to do that here. And there's our cylinder 6. If I can get you on video right, this is the coil plug for it, and we will be getting into that, of course. So really, we could do the driver's side spark plugs first once we get the intake tubing off, and then tackle all that later. So I'll see how I'm going to get into it, but let's take it step by step. Okay, so looking at this further, this is kind of like a cover piece, and the intake tubing kind of has a silencer piece right underneath it. So this is all connected. So really, I just got to unplug the sensor, the hose clamp from the throttle body, this hose clamp from the airbox, and this is already actually a little loose, so I'll make sure to tighten that up when we're putting everything back together. And then this other silencer piece looks to be held in by like a grommet, kind of like the cover for the engine. So if I can, yeah, you can kind of see it there. And then we'll pop that up as well. I don't see anything else connected to it, so I'm gonna go with that. So first, just take my 8mm, and like I said, oh wow, you can see the excess is almost all the way back down anyways, so this should come right off of the airbox. So I'll come up here, the throttle body clamp, same kind of deal, it looks to be close. So that worked out. So now for this sensor here, always be careful with these. We're looking at, is this red tab already pulled out? So that pushes it back in. So it would stand to reason that I have to pull it out. And just like that, just being careful, it comes right out. Okay, so we'll kind of push this over to the side just for now. And you can see it's actually already off the throttle body a little bit there. So, oh, there was a little push clip, but that's already out from here. So someone's been in here before doing various work. So really, oh, and this little vacuum line is connected to the airbox. I think that can stay, because I think we're just taking it off right here instead. And that should be easier for us. Yeah, just like that. You can see we already got some separation there. Okay, so we're actually disconnected from the airbox. Trying to get the headlamp in a good spot and film at the same time, so bear with me here. I guess I could try to pull it up above the airbox first. If I got the, because you have the flex piece here, so it should collapse a little bit and allow you to come up with it. Okay, so we've cleared the airbox there. We'll have to get it out of that back grommet. But really, I can pull it right off the throttle body, and then everything else is clear here. So let's see if it'll pull up and off here. Get you down low. Yeah, it's kind of hard to see, but it's definitely on a little top grommet there. Okay, so we got it. Intake tubing out of the car, and we'll set that down in our parts pile. Okay, need a dedicated cameraman, right? Okay, throttle body actually doesn't have a lot of buildup there. Focus in, please. There we go. Just a little bit of build, not too bad. Okay, so now we can see a little bit better here. We do have some kind of leak going on right here, some kind of oil leak there, so we'll definitely take note of that. And you can see it there in the back of the driver's side of the engine as well. But nothing's jumping out to me so far with that cylinder 6. The plug looks seated on the coil pack. very nicely. Here's our bolts to take off the coil packs. There is, looks like this bracket right here is going to be in our way to get that coil pack out. I don't think we'll be able to sneak it off past it. And that bracket looks to be held down. Oh, there's a bolt right here, right below this line, right in there. Looks like there's one, and maybe something on the back side here. So we'll try to work with that, get that out of there. But yeah, I think I could get these done first. Well, this line that runs through the bracket does go to the intake manifold, so it might just be worth it to get the intake manifold off first, and then we'll do all the spark plugs kind of all at once there. And oh, look at this, the oil filter is here on top, so this intake tubing has to come off every time to take out the oil filter. So that's why it was loose and not seated on all the way. Now I understand why it's been off before. So cool, we'll keep on cranking at it. Okay, so this will be a better video setup, so I don't have to hold it. It's not so shaky going out of focus. So for the intake manifold, we're gonna have a sensor right here, right behind the throttle body. So again, this one's already popped out with that red tab. So what I can do is I should just be able to work it off. I'll just make sure the tab, yes, so it does click back in once we're ready to do that. So I'll very carefully separate it again. Okay. So yep, flathead, carefully prise the red tab away. And then this sensor here feels a little loose in the hole that it sits down in the intake manifold right behind the throttle body. So I'm just gonna grab one hand on it and then grab the little wire harness here and carefully wiggle it off. Oh, so the red tab locks in, so then you have to once you back it off, you gotta push it down so the front of it can release and clear over the little black tab. Just like that, and that sensor's out. So we'll kind of tuck it down here for now. Okay, then this line here, this can actually stay because it connects to this sensor here. And all I have to do is unplug that sensor because this will come off with the intake manifold. But this vacuum liner here with the white tab, or the white little clip, it looks like I gotta pop it up, kind of squeeze the sides. And it's actually already broken in half. The two halves are just kind of hanging out right there. So I think I can actually just wiggle it off a little bit. Let's see here. I'm probably gonna look up how to get that off. Just don't want to break it any further. Let me switch over here. Just do what you know. Do what you're comfortable with first, and you can do lookups later. So this sensor here, I should just be able to push down and wiggle this off. Again, just be careful, all the wires are pretty brittle in the engine bay, as you can imagine. Then you got a vacuum line right below it. This has a green clip. Looks like the sides push in. Okay, that one's quite a bit easier. And then it slides right off. As you might be able to see there. You still got to deal with the sensor right above it. Of course, when something's in the very back, The engine bay, you gotta really reach for it. Okay. I have to get off the step stool in a second here. Oh, we just gotta go a little higher than I'm seeing to clear that tab is all. So we'll give it a little helping lift. Okay, just like that. And that sensor's off. Hopefully you can see that there. And then it sits in a little, the wire behind the sensor sits in a little cutout. And it has a, oh, it has a plastic push pin as well on top of the intake manifold on this side. So we'll just get those separated. Okay. Wiggled it slowly but surely, but that, I don't know if you can see that plastic tab. So that's out of there. So that's loose. Okay. Still working on this one vacuum line. It also clips in on two spots. One's here on the driver's side of the intake manifold and one in the back in those same half circle cutouts. So once we get it off of here, we can just get it out of there. But I'll pause the video here. I'll do a lookup, and that way I'll know for sure how to take that off without. I'll just bring in real quick for you in the video. You can see right here that clip. But actually, the owner I think already told me about it. So it had the split right here, but it's still secured on the fit there. But we'll look up how to get that off for sure. Okay, so I did a lookup on that. So it's actually I grab the line, push in, push down on the clip to help release it. But with it being broken in half, I needed some help from the flathead. Okay. So really, if your clip is broken in half right in the middle split, it's not going to do much. So I was able to just push in and basically just pull out. Wasn't able to really push the clip down at all. And coming over to the driver's side, it came out of the one slot, and I'll pop it out of the other half circle slot. Okay, so that's free. And oh, for this guy with the green clip, I actually didn't have to undo these two. I could have just taken this off here, but because everything's so brittle, I actually prefer the way I did it with the green clip line, because that's plastic and I don't have to put a huge bend on it or tension on it if I had unhooked it from just the rubber line right here. So I'm happy I did it that way. Next we have a throttle body sensor. So we're going to unplug that. It's going to be a very similar red plug here. Get over here. Sorry, I know I'm in y'all's way, but sometimes there's not a lot of workarounds. Okay, so red tab is moving. Okay, I got it to go back maybe 1/8 of an inch. We'll see about the whole sensor. Just get like an initial wiggle on it. That way you know it's starting to move around. And again, I like to come in from this side with the flathead, give it just a little pry, a little help to get over the black tab it has to clear. It has to come up fairly high. Oh, and we got it. Very nice. Am I being held up by something with a wire behind it? Oh, I guess it technically sits on this. There's a clip that sits on the casting of the throttle body housing, like a black clip. So it's just kind of like almost like a U shape, like a rectangular U, and it just grabs on a little black plastic piece. So we'll move that. I guess just kind of open up the U would be a good way to do it. Okay, just like that. So that gives us enough gap to get out throttle body sensor. So that is now out. Now there's going to be some bracketry that we're gonna have to take off down here, and then there's something over by the oil dipstick. Well, I'm gonna pause and go ahead, look that up, double check I got everything squared away. And also take you in closer here with that throttle body sensor, and then the clip onto that casted tab on the throttle body is where that's at. I'm getting a list running, so when I put everything back together, I can kind of cross out the sensors, so when I plug them back in, I can cross them out, and the vacuum lines. I think there's about 4 total, so I'll update this with the throttle body sensor. The one at the throttle body was this guy right here that plugged in right here. And like I said, this guy was already moving around a bit, so I don't want to disturb that too much, but I think that should sit pretty tight in that hole. So yeah. Oh, these are our parts. I'll show you that there. Should have 6 total. There's your part number. This is the ignition coil, should I need it. And then these are some round rubber O-rings that I believe go, I think, above the at the spark plug holes when we lift the coils up and out. So I'll show you that as well. Okay, so what I'll do next is I have a bunch of plastic tabs, 1, 2, 3, 4, and even 5 that run along this wire harness. So I got to get all those loose so I can get the harness away, so I can unplug this sensor right here. And then this whole bracket piece here, I'll take this bolt out, and this little round piece is what the cover kind of sits onto. So that 10mm, I'll take that out, and this whole thing, I should be able to get it back towards me, towards the front of the engine bay. And then after that, there's going to be a I think it's this nut and then some bolts for like a solenoid to come out. There's also this black bracket, so there might be something with that. But let me focus on what I showed you first, and then I'll get back with you. Okay, so I have a lot of those push pins disconnected, as you can see. I took the stud out. It's a 10mm wrench because the socket won't sit over that rounded ball portion on the top of that stud. And there's another, either that bolt there, or there's a push pin on this wiring harness below that bolt I can get out to get some more. I'll have to do something there because that connects the intake manifold. But as you can see, there's definitely play in this, the cover for the harness, but I still can't get to this sensor here. It's just, there's just so much in the way, and it's such a tight space. So what I can do, this wiring harness does bolt to this bracket, so I think the bracket bolts the engine block and kind of to the lower part of the intake manifold. So all I have to do is take out this 10mm bolt, and it is a stud right in there, right here. So that's a nut. And then this whole assembly should have some more play so that I can undo that sensor and continue on. Okay, this plug was a real doozy. We have to lift the gray tab, lift it back, and it's in such a tight spot, so I was able to get this wire harness bracket over here and then take a pick and kind of come in behind all that in this gap here, and you got to lift it over this tab. I don't know if you can see that tab right here. Once you get it up over that tab, you're golden. So when the plug is still in there, I had to fish the pick at a backwards angle. I used an inspection mirror to see what I was doing, and I got the pick right. So yeah, I got the pick right in there, just like so. Give that tab a little push up to get over the tab on the other side, and it popped right out. So it's really hard to do, but once you get it, you're good. And you have to get that sensor out in order to get the bracket out, because this part of the bracket won't clear that sensor. But now I should be able to pull it off here, unless there's anything else fighting me. Of course, I didn't undo this sensor, but these two tabs going right here, I was able to just pull that back, give me some more wiggle room. So with these two back, kind of get that back, you can see that, oh, actually the bracket won't clear the other side of the sensor. Interesting. It looks like it would, but it really is barely captured. Huh, okay. No way, no how. So don't want to break that sensor, just gonna leave that bracket there. I don't think, there is a bracket down here, a silver bracket you see there with the stud and a little arm. I think it's gotta come off, that little arm has to come off that stud there. So we'll keep at it. Okay, so due to some time constraints and the battery life of the phone, it's slowly dying on me, so I'm just gonna kind of fast forward a bit. I got the intake manifold off, covered up the ports. There's this line back here you gotta undo, and there's some 10mm bolts out of this bracket here as well. But then the whole thing can come out, and I'm gonna get these spark plugs here next. I just want to show that there is some oil on, maybe these are the camshaft position sensors. There's one on either side. Or actually maybe those might be up front. So this is gonna be something else here, but I think it's leaking out of there. So something to keep in mind if you have a Jeep with the V6. You might need to look into those O-rings there, but let's take out these spark plugs, see what's going on. Okay, so working on the passenger side spark plugs. We got one new one in, and I've been taking the old ones out, and you can see the fairly worn out there at 150,000 miles. They may have been replaced at some point before, but the new ones, checking on the gap, so it calls for from 40 thousandths to 44 thousandths for the V6, and these are coming out at 40 so far, so I'll keep it consistent at 40 with the new ones going in, and we'll keep on plugging away. Okay, so for this cylinder number 6 in the back on the driver's side, this bracket here is going to have a bolt kind of underneath here on the valve cover, and it's going to have one also in the back, kind of out of sight. So I just took the one out. I was able to swing it back enough so that I could get the coil pack off and get the spark plug out. And the stored code, intermittent misfire on cylinder 6, I can tell you exactly why it had a misfire intermittently. So these are all the plugs: passenger side, driver side, back, cylinder 6. Let's take a look at this spark plug. See if you notice anything out of the ordinary. And I'll hold up the cylinder in front of it for reference. What do you think? It is absolutely a piece of the ceramic right there chipped off. So it's probably arcing a little bit with that exposed metal there. So that means the piece of the ceramic chipped off, fell down the engine. Engine still runs smooth, so it probably just kind of worked its way down to the oil pan or somewhere where there's not moving parts. But that is absolutely the problem, has been found. So we'll get the new spark plug in and we'll go from there. Okay, spark plugs are in. We got this little random foam piece back on. You can see where it made a little mark there. So that sits just like so, with the middle pieces out to the side, so they go over the passenger side back to coil packs, and the gaskets between the upper and lower intake manifolds still look pretty decent. They still have some stick up, which is what you want. If they were flush, then they wouldn't actually seal. So the fact that all are still sticking up and none are torn, and they're all still bright green, and they have still some pretty decent flex to them. If they were very brittle and hard to move, then you know there would be time to change. It's probably a good idea to change them, but didn't have any of those, so we'll go put them back in. And when we put this intake manifold back down, keep in mind those bolts thread into plastic threaded holes, so do not over tighten them. You will definitely strip those out. And you can see the holes go all the way down and around the lower intake manifold. Got some right here in the back and such. So we'll absolutely be careful with those. And we'll put the car back together, see how she runs. Okay, still going back with the car. I got all the bolts started for the intake manifold. I'm gonna middle out to tighten them, and again, not too tight because going into plastic threads. This bolt was really hard to get back in on the bracket, so I had to fish my left hand over here to kind of hold it from falling, and get my right hand right here and just get one finger from either hand to get that one in. That bolt was a lot easier. And before you get the solenoid back on the studs, always make sure you get your metal bracket back in. And go ahead, just tighten the bolt and then the nut that goes over that stud there, because this sensor housing right here will be in the way if you put this back on first. And wipe off your mating surfaces here. The O-ring actually still looks good here, and then the one behind it on the intake manifold, the green one. So we're gonna go for it. And this car will be back together before you know it. We'll get all our lines and sensors back on there. And yeah, not too bad of a job, just you gotta stay focused and take it step by step, and make sure you be very careful with all the plastic components here in the engine bay. So a little pro tip is, if you're struggling to get the solenoid back on over the 3 studs and the one down below, this is the most problem one. It's not going to want to line up because the solenoid is going to be back and tilted back towards you at an angle. But the good thing is the studs are in a plastic intake manifold, so there's just enough flex where you can actually get the flathead screwdriver. You can push on the front of the stud where the E-Torx is, push the whole stud just a hair this way and down to line it with the hole, casted hole, and you can slip on the solenoid over that stud. I think you should be good to go. Okay, everything's put back together under the hood, back under the car. We will clear that misfire code right here. Since we have the new spark plugs in, and we saw that broken piece off on cylinder 6 spark plug, the piece of ceramic. Okay. Sweet. Okay, clear the codes, and we will start it up and see how she do. Foot on the brake, key in pocket. Cannot auto start, hood open. Gotcha. Wash fluid low, we knew about that. Okay, let me peek under the hood, make sure everything's running nicely. No immediate check engine lights, and we should be ready to take her for a test drive. So that has been pretty much the whole job. Sorry I couldn't show you guys every single little step by step as we went along, but sometimes there's a time factor, and my phone is literally about to die, I think. But hey, she's looking good under the hood. Get in my messy toolbox. Nice headlights there. Okay, so we'll let it come down off a cold idle. I would call it a success. This piece that broke off here, I could put a hose clamp around here, but honestly it snapped back on pretty well, and it's holding itself pretty tight. So, because it's kind of too thick of a housing to put a zip tie around it, you know, so really just got to get a new clip in there. But everything looks to be running pretty good. I'll test drive it, and that'll be that. So this is the V6 spark plug replacement, also pulling the intake manifold. Thanks for watching. Catch you in the next one. And as a nice little measure, I found a hose clamp that worked. So I put it nice and tight, not too tight because it's plastic on plastic, but that's nice and stuck, so that should come off of there. And just in case, it's clear of the metal throttle body housing. Just in case, don't want any random, grounding out to that hose clamp or whatnot. So everything else is in order. Let it run for a while, and we're gonna go drive it back right after I put the cover back on. With that one screw, which like I said was a 10mm bolt head, or probably like a T30 Torx, T27.